There are many ways to look at the process of grief. What we know about the process as individuals can help or set our or deny our own expectations and can create some problems for us. Expectations like am what I'm is what I'm doing right? Am I grieving the way I'm supposed to? What's the next step that I take um, after this as I move and do the things that I'm doing? It can be very difficult and can be very challenging. So what I want to do here with this seminar is to share a model with you that can, you know, provide a new framework, a new way for thinking about grief, a new way of looking at your grief with some different lenses. That can provide us also some space then to look at things so that we can do our grief in just maybe a little bit different manner, opening ourselves up to the grief experience, opening ourselves up to this experience that really comes from love. So let me go back here and share my screen again and to show you what uh, what I'm talking about. It's a helpful experience here. Okay, these four tasks of grieving are from J. William Warden. He has been a grief person for many years, 50 plus. He's taught grief and loss. He's a therapist and done just a lot of tremendous work and help us to understand what grief's about in a lot of different ways. And he has come up with these four tasks here. Task one, accept the reality of the loss. Task two, process the pain. Task three, adjust to a world without the deceased in it. And task four, create an enduring connection with the deceased while embarking on a new life. Now, that hopefully sounds pretty simple and straightforward. As we break them down, I think they're going to make even more sense for us and help us to really discern a little bit more of what we're going through and how we can do things uh, maybe just in a different manner. So let's take a look at the first one here. Let's get it there. The first one is to accept the reality of the loss. And let me say, that should be so simple. Um, it's it it just seems like, yeah, well, yes, they've died. We get it. We get it in our heads. We understand that people die, that our loved one died. But it can feel really strange to us when it becomes we have those experiences like we almost are forgetting, if you will, quote unquote, forgetting that they've died. We find ourselves going to the phone to make a phone call to them to tell them something. We say to ourselves, when they get home, I need to remind them of this. And then as soon as we're partway through that, it's sort of like, oh yeah, remember, they've died. Or it's going to get together with them for something and then again remembering that they have died, and that can make us feel really strange. Well, the reality is that it's common to do these kinds of things because a lot of our relationships are really habitual. We see people at a particular time, we expect them in, and our bodies and our minds and our just the regular way that we live expects those people to be there. And slowly but surely we have to kind of work our way through that and come to a new understanding that they're not. That's not always easy, not always hard. The second piece here that I talked about, refuting the reality. Now, refuting is different. Refuting is where I don't want this to be true. This isn't going to be true. I can't allow it to be true. And we fight and we push against the reality of that, holding it back, denying it. Those kinds of things can be problematic. Rejecting it, refuting it, denying what has happened to our person. That can be problematic because we don't provide the space within ourselves for those common kinds of moments and days and just living our way into their non-presence in this world. That's pushed against, and it doesn't happen in a standard way. You see this head and this heart that I've got here, it's because our head and our heart got ripped apart when our person died. They got separated. And this first task is about pulling our heart back together again. It's about pulling our heart and our head into one piece again, uniting them in one expectation of this relationship. And that's hard. That's not easy to do. Rituals that we have in our history and in our lives can be very helpful for this. Funerals and memorials, because they give us a time to look back to, a time to check into that says, yes, this did occur. Whenever that unreality comes up, whenever we feel it, we've got something that says, yes, it did happen. You know, I can remember how weird it was after my father died. You know, fathers, mothers, older siblings, these are people that are in our lives for the whole of our lives when we're alive. And when they're not now, it's just really strange they're not. But I could remember back to his funeral. I could remember back to the interment and had that picture in my head and in my heart that let me know and realize, yes, it did happen. And that helps us to move our way through tablets, cenotaphs, other kinds of things that help us to have a concrete set of reality. And that can be very, very helpful for us. Task 1, accepting the reality of the loss. Task 2 is processing the pain. So again, this sounds kind of simple. We think about grief and we think about the emotional pain that we have. That, you know, that's most of what we think about when we have grief, is how painful it can be emotionally. But it's much broader than that. It's also physical and it's also psychic. You know, the emotions, things such as sadness, longing, loneliness, anger, anxiety. Boy, these are difficult emotions, and these are really common in a grief experience. So you're combating these things and feeling these things, and they're coming along, and sometimes they're coming in and out of our life moment by moment. And that can be really, really challenging for us. One way of dealing with that is to cut ourselves off. It's not unusual to be numbed and to be numb with our emotions when the person has first died, very early on in that raw grief. But slowly but surely, these things start coming out, and we've got to create space for them. We've got to allow them into our consciousness and allow them into our recognition so that we are able to process them and let them do the work with us. You know, those difficult emotions, they create bodily sensations for us too. And that leads us into the physical, because we've got to deal with the physical pain that these emotions create, as well as the physical parts of grieving. It's not uncommon to have trouble sleeping. It's not uncommon to have trouble eating, or maybe not. To sigh all the time, to breathe, have a hard time breathing, and to literally have aching bodies. Yes, Sarah, You're absolutely right. It is the whole person that grieves, and grief manifests in a variety of ways, and you can't escape it. So you've got to process it. It takes energy to hold in and to hold that stuff at bay if we're trying to do that. If we're trying to push back and say, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have it be true. It takes an awful lot of energy to hold that and push it back. And that energy that we use that way can move us towards depression. It's a scary thing. And struggling with that and pushing that again is that part, that psychic pain. We're saying, no, no, I'm not going to do that. That's painful in a variety of ways. So how do we manage that? How do we process this pain? Such a big part of that is simply acknowledging and trusting that these feelings come into us and they rise and fall, that they're not forever. That's a concern that we oftentimes have, is that we're going to be overwhelmed. But the truth is that feelings come and go just like waves. They come and go just like moments do. And if we can allow them to come, acknowledge them, recognize them, say, I'm experiencing, a sense of anger right now. I am feeling lost. I'm feeling anxious. That acknowledges it, it processes it, it pulls it out and lets it move through. And that's a big part of what processing the pain is about. Task three. Task three is to adjust to the world without the deceased. You see, I got three categories here, and I'm going to break these down. First, external. The external categories are things like people play roles in our lives. When you're married to a person, somebody's a cook, somebody's the bottle washer, somebody cleans the house, somebody does laundry, somebody does the outside stuff, the mechanics, or at least keeps track of these kinds of things. And it is a set that works back and forth. Well, when one of those persons die, those tasks are still needing to be done. But who's left to do it? And maybe we don't know how to do it. Quick story. Gentleman had grown up in his house. His mother had been doing laundry for him till he got married. He got married, moved in with his wife. She began to do the laundry. She died. They'd been married for a long, long time. He literally had no idea how to do laundry. And he told me that he danced around the house crying out to his wife and everything, look what I did. I was able to get laundry once he got a clean load out. He figured out how to do something to get that need done, how to fill a role in his life that needed to be done. It was a joyous thing for me to watch his face light up with that. Those are how we find those roles. I have a friend that her husband, before he died, took care of all the cars. And after he died, she called me one day, and she happened to be sitting at a oil place getting the oil changed. She'd figured out how to do that. It needed to be done. So we have to work with those roles and adjust to the roles that that person played. We also have the internal things that come to us. How do we define our relationship, and how do we define and understand myself now? When our person dies, they take a piece of us with them, and it leaves a hole. It separates us from a bit of ourselves, and we don't quite know who we are. The world gives us terms for this. The world calls us widows. The world calls us widowers. The world, calls us orphans when our parents die, no matter how old we are. And that's a part of it being in our life. And we're the ones that have to decide what that is and what that means. Who am I going to be now that this person isn't here? Am I still a sibling? A woman asked me once after her brother died. I don't know. Those are questions that each of us has to do. The deceased are companions with us, especially in spousal situations. They're companions, they're helpers, they're supports for us. And man, it can be really, really hard when they die, and that part of what we need for ourselves no longer is around and available. We also have spiritual concerns. And that what that is our relationship to the wider world. It's about our fundamental values. However we define ourselves, as a person who believes in a God or doesn't, or some other way of understanding that the world works, and how we're supposed to live within it. Do I trust the world? Is it safe? How do I control what happens to me? How do I control what goes on around me? We can struggle with this, and I've heard people who believe in God from their religious tradition, why did God take my person? I prayed hard. How come God didn't keep them alive? How come God didn't save them? Or even, why am I being punished? These are all those questions about their own spiritual understanding of the world and how they are to work within it. And that adjustment is a lot. It takes an awful lot. It just takes time and focus. And for many of us, it's talking about things and thinking about our own relationship to the world in new ways. Really challenging. That's task 3. Task 4. Task 4 is creating an enduring connection with the deceased while embarking on a new life. Now, you had a relationship with this person. You loved this person. You still do. Death occurred. That didn't stop the relationship. Didn't keep you from, and doesn't keep you from loving them still. But how do I have a relationship with somebody who's died? That we're not used to, because we're used to dealing with the physical parts of it primarily. Looking at them, seeing, getting texts or phone calls, or listening to them, or even when we're apart during a day, knowing where they're at. There's a physicality to that. If you think about a GPS, we have GPS in our heads for people that we love, and we know where they are. And when they die, that GPS is hard and it goes offline. We're not quite so sure, whatever our understanding of an afterlife may be. I still love them. I still want to be in relationship with them. I still have a relationship with them to carry forward. How do I do that? That's what this task 4 is about. How do I connect with them and carry them forward in my living so that I can continue to live each and every day? And that's difficult. And again, it takes time, it takes focus, it takes some energy, and it takes space, and giving yourself space. Because there is no moving forward without taking your person with you. If you hold back, if you think, well, I just will leave them back there and I won't get connected to anybody else, that disconnection creates blockages in your life from moving forward with your life, and also creates blockages with others for you. So trust yourself and trust the relationship that you have with that person, that all the other parts of it, the emotional parts, the social parts, the psychic parts, the way you understand them to be, their thinking, and how you understand them to think about a problem and what they might say, all of that stuff is still there. It's just got to be strengthened. That's an integrated relationship. And working with that whole of that relationship, the integration of that relationship into your own life, will move forward for you. A gentleman told me years ago that when his spouse was alive, she was very hard to get in touch with. She was busy, she was active, a great business person and doing things all the time. And he said that I would, if I had a question, I would have to reach out to her and wait for her text or the call, or maybe wait to see her that night when she came back. After she died, he said I was able to, through my grief, think about what I might say to her and what she would say to me. And I found her to be actually much more close to me than she was physically around before she died. I would be able to access her, her thoughts, her love, her connectedness, so that if I needed her, she was there even faster than she was before. And what a beautiful way of talking about integrating the whole of that relationship into his life and moving forward now. He literally learned to adjust to his new life and to fill his life with everything new that was coming along and to live it to a full place. You know, these tasks of mourning, accepting the reality of the loss, processing the pain, adjusting to a world without the deceased, creating an enduring connection while embarking on a new life. That's a lot. It's a lot because your relationship with the person who has died is a lot. It's got a lot of pieces to it. These are not 1, 2, 3, 4 that you do one after another. They are things that you bounce around between day by day and sometimes moment by moment. So it's chaotic. It can be time consuming. This experience of mourning and grieving. It's not something that you just say you're going to do and flip a switch and have it done. It takes time and attention, just like your relationship does when that person was alive. You can't shorten it, you can't truncate it. But having some kind of model can be a way to move into a new manner of living, of loving, of being connected. I hope this kind of helps a little bit, and I hope that you'll come back and take a look at this from time to time. It's a lot to hold on to and to try to figure out, but coming back in and remembering and looking at these can be very, very helpful to kind of focusing on one thing maybe for a bit. Whatever it is, I hope that you found something helpful here. I want to thank you for joining us and for being with us here on Journeys Through Grief, be it in real time or sometime in the future. Finding something that will help you move through is part of the support we love to offer. We hope you follow us on Facebook and on Instagram so that we can be together in our journey through grief. And now I send you peace as you grieve your loss, and hope that you find the support and strength that you're looking for day by day.